Producer Dylan behind the scenes sees the question, and of course, you have the opportunity to have your question answered on air here following Michigan's 38-7 victory over Maryland. The Wolverines improved to 7-2 on the year. We've got a question coming in from Last Prime Speculator. He says, what time do you think the Michigan State kickoff time will be? #Go Blue. I think it's going to be noon, to be frank. I think it'll be the Fox Big Noon game. It would have to take something crazy for it not to be at this point. Because I looked at, we'll know on Monday for sure, but I looked at all the different TV networks, what they can get, what they can't get, what games they have to choose from, and it's not going to be a night game. Michigan can deny a night game. They did their two that they're required to by the networks, Big Ten Network, and then the Notre Dame game for ABC, ESPN. And there's not enough games that week, I think, that are going to push the Fox Big Noon game is going to get the emphasis. I think they're going to take the Michigan game, put that one as their Big Noon kickoff against Michigan State, and then there'll be some other games that day that potentially get the 3:30 slot. But that's what I'm predicting now. 12 o'clock, Michigan Stadium on the 16th, Michigan versus Michigan State. So I think that'll be it, but we'll see on Monday. I guess we'll only see on Monday if it's a night game, which it won't be. So we might actually see until next weekend, but I think it's going to be a noon. Thanks for the question, Last Prime Speculator. Brad Gensheimer, why do they not go deep to Nico more? I don't know. Why don't they go deep to Nico more? I want to throw my no turnover chain to the TV when I'm watching this game, okay? Because it seems to work, right? It seems to work. One catch for 51 yards. Why don't they go deeper to Nico more? Michigan's wide receivers did nothing today. This is not a Maryland team that has a great secondary. This is not a Maryland team that has a great defense. Look at their recent games. They've been getting up 50 and 40 points like it was going out of style. Penn State threw all over them. Maryland did, or Minnesota did whatever they wanted against them. But Michigan struggles again to get anything going through the air, where Hassan Haskins has your most catches on the day with 3 catches for 9 yards. You know something is going on with this Michigan football rushing attack. So I don't know the answers. I wish I knew, but I wouldn't be happy if I was Nico Collins. I think he's actually playing pretty well this whole year. Tarik Black, does he even exist anymore? And where was Donovan Peoples-Jones today? I don't know. Ronnie Bell seems to be the only wide receiver who's been consistent this entire year outside of that one drop pass against Penn State. Warren Black has a question for us. Thanks for the question, Warren. Michigan plays to the level of their opponents. It's frustrating, but they win. Beat State and Ohio, and the season is a success. At this point, I would agree with you. If one, I agree they do play to the levels of their opponents a lot of times. And you saw last year when they played their best games against Wisconsin and Penn State, when those teams were ranked in the top 20, I think both actually in the top 15 when Michigan played them at home. And Michigan played great in those. I think one was mid-October, and then was it November 2nd or something like that last year. So played up to the competition. You got top 15 teams. You blow them out. But then Indiana, you struggle. Notre Dame at the beginning of the year, I don't know what that was about. And then this year, we've seen it all year long. Army, Middle Tennessee State, they didn't play as great. Wisconsin blew Michigan out. You played kind of even with Penn State, and then today you played down to a Maryland Terps team in a lot of ways. But if you beat Ohio State, beat Michigan State, 10-2 season, I think beat all 3 big rivals, I think that would be considered a successful season. But BetDSI is our presenting sponsor today here on our Michigan Football Report post-game show, taking our live Michigan football questions. Use the hashtag Michigan today. But BetDSI is where I place my bets for all my college football, my NFL bets, because I got started with that promo code GOBLUE. 120% deposit bonus means put in 100, I had 220 sitting in my account. I could have put in $500, folks, and an extra $600 sitting in my account to bet on college football, to bet on the NBA, to bet on the NFL. Sports are just more fun when you put a little bit of cash on it. Don't bet anything you don't want to lose, of course, but I do by betting with BetDSI, and I encourage you guys to do as well if something you want to do. You make the choice, but do it with promo code GOBLUE. Question coming in from Melvin again. Scottsboro, is there something going on with Donovan Peoples-Jones? He means he caught one ball, I think, and not doing his thing on punt returns. I mean, it's weird, right? Because he didn't play for the first few games of the year. Then he gets okay amount of touches, throughout the middle, quarter, the second quarter of the season. And then he has some nice games over the last few weeks. But then again today, he falls back. He's nowhere to be found here on your receiving leaders. And what was his catches? I'm going to look up because, we don't even have him on there. 2 catches for 11 yards on the day, but not in your top 5 wide receivers as far as yards, your catches or yards. So 2 catches for 11 yards for Donovan Peoples-Jones in the day. I didn't hear anything about him being hurt, but he's not a first-round wide receiver, if you ask me, and a lot of people have projected that he could be, but I don't think Donovan Peoples-Jones is a first-round wide receiver as of this year. I strongly recommend he comes back for his senior year to improve his draft stock and not blow a bunch of potential life-changing money by being a 5th or 6th round draft pick and coming out after an underwhelming junior season. But I want you guys to comment. Which Michigan player impressed you the most at today's game? I'm torn between a couple guys. I'm thinking of myself. Producer Dylan just throws these things on screen. I have no time to prepare for these things. But I don't know. I'm probably going to go with Josh Uche because even though he didn't put out like the gaudy stats, 2 sacks, I felt like every time I saw a great play being made today, Josh Uche was a part of it. Khaleke Hudson is another guy you want to maybe consider. Josh Metellus also had a nice day. Dallas Jackson had a pretty nice day too. As a true freshman, taking a punt return in a Big Ten game, 97 yards on the road to the house, certainly proves that in the future he could be our guy as a kick returner for 2 more seasons, if not 3 more seasons, should he stay all 4 years. So answer below which player impressed you the most in Michigan's 38-7 victory over Maryland. Question coming in from Scott Stoll. Gattis ain't the problem, man. He's got Harbaugh breathing down his neck every play call. And it's clear, every time you go to the sideline, who do you see with a play call sheet in his hand talking now that was not happening at the beginning of the year? It is Jim Harbaugh. I didn't see him as you would go to Harbaugh at the Wisconsin game. You'd see him against Army or Middle Tennessee State on the sideline, and he was letting Gattis do his thing, right? That's not necessarily the case that I saw. That's not what I saw today. It's actually what I saw against Notre Dame when I went back and watched the footage. Being at the game, it was tough to even tell where Harbaugh was with the rain pouring down on us, and just trying to cover up with my what are those things called, Dylan? Poncho. That's right. But it's clear that Jim Harbaugh and Ed Warner have put their stamp on this offense, and I don't necessarily think that means Josh Gattis' job is at jeopardy. I'm kind of leaning towards he'll come back for next year. He'll be invited back, you should say. But I think Jim Harbaugh and Ed Warner have really put an impact on what they want Michigan to be as offense, because this is not the same offense we saw the first few games of the year. Question coming in from Facebook Live, Chris Blackwell. Shea is awful, and that is why these wide receivers have not lived up to the hype. Look, where does the blame go? Because Michigan's passing attack has not been good. Don't worry about the first half. Let's get to the full game stats there, Maryland, against Maryland Dill. Thank you for that. 13 of 22 for 151, 1 touchdown for Shea Patterson. And I will admit, Shea does not play great all the time, but he's not terrible. I've seen worse Michigan quarterbacks like Devin Gardner, like as far as quarterbacks passing going, Denard Robinson, have wide receivers get much better stats. So worse quarterbacks have had receivers with better stats. So I don't necessarily think it's all Shea. I think it's an interesting take. It's certainly a logical take. But if you were to put if you were to put Braylon Edwards on this team, I can guarantee you'd have 100 yards in many games. And that's not the case with Michigan's wide receivers right now. They're not putting up stats at all. Frankly, the stats are terrible. If you look at the wide receivers for Michigan throughout the year, it's so many games, it's half the games where you see the leading guy in the team from a wide receiver perspective has 2 or 3 catches, and that just can't continue if Michigan's ever going to play championship level football under Jim Harbaugh. How about Rob Sewell? Is that the owner of the car dealership in Dallas? If you didn't know, Rob, probably the biggest car dealership group in Dallas is Sewell, and I swear you see them everywhere. I put their name on every car, so great name and great income, I guess, if you're related to them. If not, you should figure out if you are related to them. Get yourself a new caddy or something like that. Concerned that the run game cannot produce a lot better today, especially considering what Minnesota did to Maryland. And that's a very valid point. running game was underwhelming today after a great performance last week against Notre Dame. So, Hassan Haskins, True Wilson, Zach Charbonnet, you get a nice run out of True Wilson for 39 yards, but no one really stood out today. I mean, Charbonnet is back to getting his under 10 carries, so does that mean he's injured? Does that mean, they don't trust him? I don't actually know, because certainly he's getting the ball inside the 10-yard line. Hassan Haskins is your number one running back. The last 4 games, it's pretty obvious he is the guy, but no one stood out today for me against Maryland. After last week's performance, that's a tough pill to swallow because it means that Michigan went on the road again and came out flat against an opponent that shouldn't be in the same galaxy as them. So maybe Michigan was reading their press clippings a little too much after last week's big victory over Notre Dame. But I want to ask you guys this question. Will Michigan beat Ohio State this year? Will the Wolverines beat the juggernaut that has become the Ohio State Buckeyes under first-year head coach Ryan Day, first-year quarterback Justin Fields, who, just throw this out there, when you're out at the bars and the restaurants, you're at church tomorrow morning, you can now say, hey, did you know that Shea Patterson has more passing yards than Justin Fields does this year? Hey, bravo, Shea, bravo. Now, Ohio State's got a much better running game, and Fields has not had to play nearly as many snaps as Shea has. But Shea was injured for at least 3.5, 4 games this year, where he was limited by that oblique injury. So that's a pretty interesting stat. Ohio State being off today, Shea only had to throw for like 60 yards to get above where Justin Fields is on the year. But will Michigan beat Ohio State this year? Type 1 if yes, type 2 if no. I'm going to go for the no for now because I just don't see the talent or the offensive philosophy that it's going to take to beat that Michigan team. But maybe Don Brown cooks something up and they shut Ohio State, bring them back down to 28 points, something like that, whatever it is. So type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Guys, we're presented today by the Action Network app. I use the Action Network app every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to place bets on college football, to place bets on the NFL. Not to place them, to know the information to place the bets. I have an advantage on every single sports book I might want to play. Bet DSI, thanks for the money. And it's because of the Action Network. I know where the trends are. I'm going 3-2, 4-1 every single week. College football, NFL, chatsports.com/deal, $5.99 a month, 40% off the normal price, because I'd plug them so much on the internet. They said, James, do you want to give your viewers a great deal? I said, sure. 40% off. You got to go to chatsports.com/deal. Another question coming in from Last Prime Speculator. Do you think Gattis will be our OC next year, or will Jim Harbaugh take over using the hashtag Michigan? Good question. It actually is, because I'm a little torn at this point. 3 weeks ago, I would have said, get rid of Gattis. Then Penn State's second half happened. You can even say maybe the game against Illinois, you look good in offense at the beginning of the game and the end of the game, and then not much in between. Then you have Notre Dame last week. But as I looked at the film more, I looked at the stats more, I looked at the philosophy a little bit more over the last 3 or 4 weeks, it feels to me that this is not Josh Gattis' offense as much as the Michigan coaches are going to tell you this week, is what Webster and all these local journalists are going to tell you. They got their marching orders, so they're going to march to the beat of the drum that this is Josh Gattis' offense. That's all they are, is drummer boys. The mainstream media in Detroit and Ann Arbor can't trust them at all because they are for sale. You throw Webster $100, he'll tell you anything you want, okay? It's clear this is Jim Harbaugh's offense on the running side. This is clear this is now Ed Warner's blocking schemes. I don't think Josh Gattis has as much freedom as he did the first 3 or 4 games of the year, where Michigan woefully underperformed, was fumbling the ball left and right. So I'm going to say yes, because I think it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Jim Harbaugh to look for another offensive coordinator. So I think he wants some consistency. But with the quarterback position up for grabs next year, it's possible they could get rid of him. So I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason storyline. We probably won't know until the days after the bowl games. If Michigan goes out and loses to Michigan State or Ohio State or both, gosh, they lost to both and they lost a bowl game, ended up with 5 losses, I think it'd be tough to bring Josh Gattis back, because I'm guessing his offense would be a big reason for those losses. Make sure you subscribe, guys. We have news, rumors, grades, and live question and answers with you, the audience, every single week. 6 or 7 days a week, we've got a new episode here on the Michigan Football Report. Subscribe below. If you're watching on YouTube, just hit that big red button. If you're on Facebook, head over to YouTube. We're also available on Apple Podcasts. Just search Michigan Football Report, or use a little Siri action. Just say, Siri, subscribe to the Michigan Football Report, and it will happen.